So this video is going to be a little bit of a review, but also a focus on the major leaders of independence, Jinnah and Gandhi. So let's start with Jinnah. Jinnah, 1876 to 1948, is Western educated. He went to Bombay University, trained as a lawyer in London, so he understands British culture and British law, but also British rights, and so he really understands British philosophy, liberal ideas. And so he believes in working within the system. He wants to use constitutional methods to slowly gain independence, like Canada, for example. He joins the INC in 1896, and he really gains his fame by defending Bal Gandhar Tilak, who was charged with sedition for his role in the 1905 protests against the Bengal partition. He joins the Muslim League in 1913 and becomes president in 1916. So he's really a rising star, defending famous protesters, becoming president by 1916. He believed Indians had a right to agitate for independence, and so he's pushing, and so he's not necessarily going to go with Gandhi's nonviolence. He's going to start to push where it's okay to really push for change. However, he recognized the benefits of British rule, the power of equality under the law, of British culture, British industry, and what the good things have been to really help India. He's also a member of the Home Rule League, calling for Dominion status, calling for that change where they'd have autonomy. They get to run their own show. The English don't really have a say in their affairs, but not full independence, so somewhere like Canada, where the Queen's still on the money, but they make all their own rules. He becomes more radical after World War I because, again, there's no change happening. And so after World War I, where nothing's happening, he decides to leave the INC when Gandhi shows up with the non-cooperation campaign. He thought this strategy was too radical, thought it would destabilize the political structure, which it absolutely does. He's also nervous about Gandhi as a traditional Hindu holy man. He thought that this Hindu leader would not be able to represent the interest of Muslims. So he starts to call for a two-state solution. He wants his own country, which the INC and Gandhi rejects. They want one India where everybody, all different religions are together. The Muslim League was often used by the British to play off of the INC, to kind of fight each other a little bit whenever possible. Unsatisfied with these slow reforms, he says, fine, Dominion status is not enough, let's go for full independence. And so after the election of 37, he's pretty disappointed, and so he works on building his party as the sole representative of Indian Muslims. He supports the British during World War II, and his support is definitely recognized during later negotiations, and this helps out his position with the British. Gandhi tried and failed to reconcile their differences. He tried to bring Jinnah back, it just was too little too late. 1941, Jinnah creates his own newspaper called Dawn to spread the League's news and further recruit Muslims to his cause. 1946, he called for Muslims to engage in that direct action to demand for a separate state. It turns nasty and violent. So finally, the UK and the INC accept the creation of Pakistan. Jinnah is elected as the first leader of Pakistan, but he doesn't get to lead that long, and he dies of tuberculosis within the year. So here he is on the cover of Time magazine as we see this split of Pakistan and India between two Indian tigers and the British lion looking on and kind of walking away. And so that was kind of a closer look and review of the role of Jinnah. But what about Gandhi? Let's take a closer look at Gandhi and his role in the overall independence. Gandhi was born, I'm going to scoot over so you can see a really cute little 6-year-old Gandhi. Adorable. Gandhi born into a middle-class Indian family. Father was a high-ranking official, and they were hoping that he would one day become a high-ranking official. That's why the family sent him off to be a lawyer, and so that one day he can come back and get into politics. Was raised Hindu, but in a strongly Jain community, and so there's a lot of Jain influences in, and that's where he gets a lot of his non-violent and his ideas from Satyagraha from those Jainist influences. He's Western educated and trained as a lawyer in London, much like Jinnah. They have many similarities in their early lives, but after that they start to split. Gandhi's Satyagraha strategy, they completely reject Jinnah's policy of a kind of slow constitutional approach. His experience as a lawyer in South Africa really changes his view on the UK. So when he was in London, he's a member of the empire. He's happy to help. But then he starts to see some serious problems. He witnessed racial discrimination and also some serious, so an example of that would be on the train, but also extreme British violence against the Zulu revolt. So he saw the result when a people try to react violently against the British go overkill and will just decimate a people. And so he turns to non-violence as his main strategy to avoid British violence. He realizes he can't stand up to the British military. He needs other methods. And so we've got adorable 6-year-old Gandhi, teenage Gandhi, and Gandhi in his 20s in his lawyer days. He goes back after serving briefly as that lawyer in South Africa. He goes back to India in 1915. At that point, he's gained some celebrity for defending Indians in South Africa. He travels all around India to kind of assess the local conditions to figure out what's the next step. How can he help India? He goes around. As he goes around, he starts to encourage self-reliance and social mobility, encouraging the building of schools, hospitals, and clean water facilities. So some of the things that the British built, but he wants people to build it for themselves. And so he starts some of his campaigns, including the Champaran agitation. In Champaran, we have the indigo farmers. And this is his first nonviolent protest, his first attempt. And these are tenant farmers. They rent the land, but the only way that they can make money is they have to grow indigo for UK planters, and this indigo is dye, instead of actually growing food for themselves. So they're paid something far below minimum wages for survival, for something they don't really want and can't eat to survive off of. The UK is a liberal democracy similar to America that supports public protest, and so anytime the UK suppresses, it's not going to be welcomed by the people. Anytime these protests are shut down, the people view this negatively, and Gandhi knows that. And so it's a pretty successful campaign here. He gets certain things for the farmers of Champaran, and this is where he starts to earn his nicknames through leading these marches. Nicknames like Bapu, which means father, and Mahatma, which means great soul. He really gains status when he launches the National Non-Cooperation Campaign after the Amritsar massacre. And this changed the movement into a more mass movement where everybody's involved. The regular common man is involved too. Salt March is another huge example for him. It's a simple, non-violent reaction. He's just going to go make some salt to injustice. But the UK overreacts again, and it damages their credibility. It makes them look bad. He realizes that arrests and hunger strikes can be used very effectively by the media, and he keeps the media very close, as the hunger strikes and all these different marches are no good without media. And so once especially the British people start to go with him, things change. He's pretty socially liberal, pretty far left. He's calling for women's equality and starts to push for further rights for untouchables, so he's even further left than most of the INC. The Quit India campaign is another huge step for him. It really puts pressure on the UK during World War II. He didn't really take a stand, so some of the criticisms, he didn't take a stand against Nazism, but he also criticized the UK for fighting Nazism, fighting injustice, without actually giving self-determination and justice for Indians. I think the Atlantic Charter and Churchill. World War I showed India that even though the British may make promises, they're not going to follow through every time. And so they push really hard during World War II. He's also criticized for his attitude about the form of India after independence. He didn't really recognize Muslim fears of a Hindu-dominated majority. He rejected giving Muslims autonomy in Muslim-dominated provinces, and so did the INC. And so in the end, we do see this split. He was assassinated in 1948 by a Hindu extremist, Natharam Godse. The assassin believed that Gandhi had weakened India by pushing for a secular or non-religious India instead of an India based on Hindu values. And so he's assassinated for not being Hindu enough and trying to unite the nation to accept all religions. And so that's a second look at the role of Gandhi.